Well, here we are doing a little preseason scouting, early season, the summer months, and I do most all my scouting this time of year in the evening. Basically what I'm doing is I'm driving to the end of the farm, and we're going to be scouting basically the crop fields and the food sources. But I'm going to go down to the end of the farm, and I'm just going to kind of ease my way back up to the farmhouse, and we're going to stop in some of these different fields and basically just glass. We're just glassing deer. A couple of deer out in the hayfield right now, and it's hot, but they just cut this today, and I can smell that fresh alfalfa. Got to have that food. There's no acorns yet, and this is deer candy to them right now. We're out in an alfalfa field here, and it actually just goes and breaks up over the hill here. And there's usually deer on the other side, so I'm just going to kind of ease up to one of these hay bales, and I'm going to glass over the edge just to see what's out there. But as I get closer to season, now I'm looking for those bucks because their antler growth is pretty much completed, and at that point I can tell what bucks I have, and hopefully comparing to some of the trail cams that I had from last year, and I'm also paying attention at that point where they're coming to, where they're spending their time. That'll tell me where kind of the travel route of that deer. But right now these deer are just coming out in the evening to feed, and it's just a lot of fun to see them. One of the most important tools that I use this time of year for scouting, obviously, is a good pair of binoculars. So whatever you're using, make sure you have a good quality pair of binoculars when you're doing your early season scouting, because you're doing a lot of glassing in low light. See, they've got to have this new growth. These does, they have to have that new growth for lactating purposes. This alfalfa gives them a great supply of milk for those little ones. And know that in a few months I'll be in a tree stand waiting for them to come walking by. Hi, I'm Rick White with Alpen Optics, and I want to talk to you today about the new Alpen Shasta Ridge binoculars. Now, they're lighter than the older Shasta Ridges, new sleek design, fog-proof, waterproof, BAK4 prisms, phase-coated, and the lenses are multi-coated. Inexpensive pair of binoculars with great quality. So if you're looking to save a little money, but still put quality in your backpack, make sure you check out the Alpen Shasta Ridge binoculars. Good optics are a must for a hunter. The new Alpen Tetons. They're lighter, they're better in low light, excellent glass. You'll be hard pressed to find that glass for under $1,000. Everything that you would want in a pair of optics. I know what I'm looking for, and once I know what I'm looking for and find what it is, that's what I'm interested in buying. The bottom line is they're affordable, they're lighter, and they're great in low light. The new Alpen Tetons. Another deer coming out. Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpen Teton binoculars. A lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpen Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpen Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now. You know, here we are midsummer here in Iowa, and I'm just out doing some scouting, glassing deer, kind of taking an inventory of what I've got, and doing it from a distance. I've got one of the new Alpen spotting scopes. It's a 20 by 60, but one of the things I really like about this, it comes with a tripod, and it's got micro adjustments, so it's real easy to zoom in and move around and find those animals. But basically, this is a great tool to help me manage the farm all year round. If you're looking for a great way to do some scouting, do it in the evening from a distance with a nice spotting scope. Hi everybody, I'm Rick White with Alpen Optics, and I want to share with you a new product that I'm real excited about. The Alpen Shasta Ridge 4K action camera. Now there's lots of features with this camera, but I'm just going to go over some of the ones that I really like. First of all, it comes in a waterproof case, and when in the case, it's waterproof down to 100 feet. Now it comes out of the case real easy. The other nice thing I really like is this camera by itself, outside the case, is actually waterproof down to 15 feet. So if I'm setting it up in the rain or drop it in the water, I'm not worried about it. Now some of the features that I really like, the attachments that come with it, one of them I really like is the stake. I'm a big turkey hunter and I like to use these over my turkey decoys, but you just screw the stake in, stick it in the ground, and you know, it does the rest. Lots of other attachments, and most other manufacturers' attachments will fit with this camera as well. So it's really endless when it comes to all the things that you can do with it. Now it comes Bluetooth with a remote, and this remote, you can just put it on your wrist. You can actually run it with the remote. You can start the video or you can take photos, and again, 4K photos with the remote. Now one of the other features I really like is it's Wi-Fi, and you can attach it to your smartphone. And when you've got your smartphone attached to the camera, you can run everything with your phone and you can see exactly what you're filming. I mean, what a great camera with a lot of great features. Doesn't get much better than that. You're looking for a great action camera? Make sure you check out the Alpen Shasta Ridge 4K action camera. You'll be glad you did. Let's talk a little bit about Alpen and Bresser optics. Now they have a full line of optics, but what I want to talk to you now about is rangefinders. They have several different varieties of handheld rangefinders and the new bow rangefinder. Now for you bow hunters, you go ahead and sight in at 20 yards and you calibrate it to your 20-yard pin, and when you're at full draw, whatever you're pointing that 20-yard pin on an object, it'll tell you the yardage. So whether you like a handheld or you want to put one on your bow, we have both options for you here at Alpen and Bresser Optics. Today, Ryan and I are going to show you how we sight in the Alpen Kodiak Series scope. Now Ryan's got his 308 with an Alpen Kodiak 2.5 by 10 by 50. Now the first thing you'd want to do is have it bore sighted, and we've already got that done. We're going to take a shot and then we'll show you how we make adjustments from there. All right, so after Ryan's first shot, remarkably, he's only 1 inch high and 1 inch to the right. Now, typically when you bore sight a gun, you're not always that close, but in this situation, we were fortunate to be pretty darn well dead on. But so what we're gonna do next is Ryan is gonna hold the crosshairs on the bullseye, same spot he shot from before, and we're gonna actually make an adjustment with the crosshairs and go to the bullet, up and over to the right, 1 inch. Okay, you ready?
There.
There? Okay, and
other way. There.
right there?
Yep.
Okay, so once again, what we did is Ryan held the crosshairs on the bullseye, on the red dot, and we actually moved, I made the adjustments that moved the crosshairs up and over to the bullet hole, and we're gonna take a second shot. Okay, so on this shot, we brought it over to the left and we're just a little bit high yet. So we're gonna make a slight adjustment and we should be pretty darn close to on at that point. And so we're shooting high.
Yeah.
So we wanna go low. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, once again, we're shooting just a little bit high. We held it on the bullseye, and I made adjustments to bring the crosshairs down, or actually to the bullet, which in essence is bringing it down to where we want it to be. So hopefully we're on this time. Huh?
We hit red.
All right, we hit red, and that's exactly how you sight in a gun. Man. But you can't wait to get out and go hunting with it, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to another episode of On the Hunt with Alpen Optics. I'm your host Rick White, and tonight's guest comes all the way from way out east, Mr. Jack Coad, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the 3D shoots and maybe how to set your bow up and what you're looking for when you're buying a bow. Also, as I mentioned last week, we're going to share my favorite backstrap deer recipe. So get a pen and paper ready, and we got a great special at the end of the show too. So sit back and enjoy the show.
You know, good.
Well, welcome back, everybody. As I mentioned, tonight's guest, Mr. Jack Coad. Jack, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, doing really well, Rick. I really welcome the opportunity to be with you again and enjoying the show here with Alpen on the Hunt.
So I know you've been on the show before, but give the folks a rundown a little bit. Tell them about yourself. I know you've done so many things over the years, and it's always amazing to hear some of the things you've done.
Well, I'm just a regular guy. I'm a retired U.S. Marshal, but over the last 20 years, while I was still on the job, and then since I retired in 2011, I've been working in the outdoor industry, basically. As a staffer, as a pro staffer, and working with a lot in the archery world. So I've worked with a couple of companies, and I'm working with kids. That's what my main goal is, to introduce people to the archery and the hunting world, be it children or women, since they're our next great marketing area. We got to have new people coming into the sport if we want to have this sport.
You know, that's absolutely right. And, you know, I know we had you on the show prior to turkey season, and I know turkey season's over, but I got to ask you, how was your turkey season?
Well, the turkey season was a lot of fun. It was very long, as my wife would tell you. I started off in Nebraska, where I was lucky enough to take 2 birds. Once on the first day we were out, within a couple of days of the hunt, and then the last 10 minutes of the last night as we're getting ready to leave Nebraska and head back to New York. So I was really lucky there, and then I moved off into Indiana. The birds got the best of me after that. They got me, they handed it to me pretty good in Nebraska, but I hunt with a bow. That's all I hunt with, or maybe a crossbow, since I've had shoulder surgery over the last few years. I've had 3 of them in the last 3.5 years. So I got one with a crossbow, one with a bow, and then I was out with a bow. I don't generally hunt with a gun unless I'm out there with my grandsons or some youth. But I didn't take another bird. It was tough. I fought with a few of them, and they won.
You know, I heard a lot of that this year. Would you say that most of the places that you went this past spring were the turkey numbers, were they down a little bit maybe?
Yeah, I think so. It seems to be that there just wasn't the numbers that we're used to seeing. Whether we hit the bad timing with the weather and the gobbling just didn't seem to exist. If they gobbled, it was on roost, and then you never heard anything once they hit the ground. It was more or less, you really had to hunt this year or get lucky and trip over them. So I did a lot of ambush attempts. As a matter of fact, one of the last days I was battling with this one real nice bird, and one of the last days I get him. I have him gobbling. He's like 25 yards behind me. He's working his way out into the field. I've got my decoy. I got one lone decoy, and I'm sitting out there. As soon as he hits the field, he busts into a run, runs about 85 yards away, looks back at the decoy, walks off, walks another 50 yards out of the field, and then gobbles 3 more times as he's saying goodbye. But that was about it. Why he took off, I have no idea.
Yeah.
The brain the size of a pea, but if we can only figure out what that pea has to say.
Oh, I know. Well, enough of turkey hunting. So I understand that you're in full swing right now with some of the 3D archery shoots and stuff. So how's all that going?
Well, that's been going really good, and actually we're starting to wind down in the competition world. I've been out. I attended 12 different events this year, starting in the end of April and coming all the way up to this past weekend. Now, you just had the big one, was the third leg of the IBO was this past weekend over in Ohio, and a lot of the big pros are really gearing up for the I think it's the August 6th through the 8th in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, where they've got the national championship for IBO. That's where you get all the big guys coming in. I've mostly, because I work with a small archery company, and I've been mostly doing just regional and state shoots in New York and Pennsylvania. So I've had lots of good events and lots of good talking with people. Alpen, I've been lucky enough to bring Alpen with me, and they have been making a big play out on the competition circuit. The people are just so glad to see them back. I've watched, I don't know how many 30-year-old binoculars I've had in my hand that people got back in the late 90s when Alpen first started, and they started hitting those target circuits and started hitting the big the national events. And then they were looking at them now, and they're just they really enjoy the quality, the clarity, the ability to see rings. Basically about half the price of what a competitive binocular would be at. So it was very good. It was a great feed for Alpen and the competition circuits and that. So it was just a really good season as we're watching grow. Of course, the numbers in archery, as with hunting, are dwindling. The hardest thing you got is getting kids involved, and that's why a lot of the manufacturers and people in the industry are really working to grab that kid's attention and bring them here into the archery world and then into the hunting world. They don't have to do both. With archery, you can do a lot of just target shooting. If you get people who don't want to hunt, or they just don't think they can shoot an animal. Let's face it, there's a lot of people out there who just feel they can't. So they go out there and they can shoot a lot of targets, simulated hunting with 3D targets or shooting spots.
Yep. So someone that maybe isn't into the 3D archery hunting or shooting and wanted to get involved with it, and I know different states have different organizations, but what would be your suggestion on how to locate that type of event and how to maybe get involved?
Well, I would think that the best way to do it is, most of the people now are somewhat literate on the computer. So if you go up and you Google archery shops in your area. So you start off in a pro shop, because one of the biggest deterrents I've watched over the years as a hunter safety instructor and bow certification instructor in New York is watching people who got frustrated with a bow because they were what we call overbowed. They're trying to draw a bow that's too heavy for them, doesn't fit them, and they get frustrated, and then they put the bow down and may never touch it again. One of the things is that you want to go to the person who knows what the equipment's about. You have to have a bow that fits you. And then it's the arrow and the type of tips you're going to do. It's just like shooting a gun. You need the gun, you need a rifle, you need the scope, and you need a bullet. And the bullet and the rifle and everything's got to fit perfectly together. But with archery, most backyards, you can shoot in your backyard. 20 yards is what a lot of the competition is when you're looking at spots. So you go into a pro shop, get the equipment that fits you, get the equipment that you can afford. There's a lot. The one thing that's great about archery is that there's a wide variety of equipment available, decent equipment available at different price points for kids, no matter what their ages are. I've had kids. One of the events I run the archery line on every year is the National Hunting and Fishing Days, the fourth Saturday of September. And I'm out there with a lot of kids. I mean, I've got kids that I'm on the ground kneeling to help them pull a bow back, to learn how to pull it back, and then to get the form. Plus, that's the other thing, is learning how to shoot a bow properly. The pro shops, they have all that information you're going to need. They have the expertise, they have the equipment, and they've got the knowledge of archery in their area. They've got their finger on the pulse. So that's where you want to start off with.
Right, and I'm sure you'll suggest the same thing. Before you go and buy a bow from your buddy or through whatever ways of buying bows, go to that pro shop, and they can measure your draw length. You can pick up some of their bows. You can draw them back. You can kind of get a feel for what you like, what kind of poundage you want to shoot. I mean, all that makes a difference. And then there's so many different bow sights and accessories for bows. You really need to understand a little bit about that before you go out and just buy a bow and pick it up and think you're going to be this great shooter. And, Jack, I've got bows that I've had for years and years and years, and they still shoot great. But technology nowadays moves so fast with everything, but even bows. And I'm not saying you got to go out and buy a bow every year. I get a new bow every year, but do you have to do that? Absolutely not. But if you don't buy a new bow, let's just theoretically say every 5 years, it's like a computer. 5 years from now, your computer is going to be obsolete. And they just keep getting, I don't know how they can get better, but they just keep getting better. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Are you seeing?
Well, the one thing that's great about archery is that you can have the basics and still be effective with slinging an arrow, hitting the spot that you're looking at. Whether it's a recurve or traditional bow, as long as you can operate that bow, which means it's got to fit you in order to get the desired effects and results that you want, which is delivering that arrow to the spot you want to hit. You're right with the archery. They've got their finger on the pulse in a pro shop. And it's great if you know what you're doing as far as when you buy something from your friend, your father, your grandfather, or at a garage sale. But until you learn, you've got to become an informed consumer. So that means that you've got to understand what your draw length is ahead of time. And, I don't know how many times. I'll give you a perfect example. A quick little story about a friend of mine who were out shooting on a 3D shoot out on a practice course. And it's just a local event. And we're going through, and every couple of arrows, he loses, he's missing. And I kind of look at him, and it's like, that bow is way too long for you. Nope, it was perfectly measured for me. I'm a 31-inch draw. And I said, oh, you're 5'7". There is no way that you are a 31-inch draw. I said, I'm 5'11", and I'm only a 28-inch draw. So we went around and around, and I said, how often can you hit the target? He's like, well, I get a couple, and then I always get a flyer. So we walked up to the next target. I took his bow from him. I said, here, shoot mine. Just shoot it. Use the same sights and everything. Draw it back and let it go. The next 3 targets, he used my bow, and he had perfect hits. He had bullseyes on the animals. So he hit the 10 spot. He went out the next business day and picked himself up a new bow that fit him properly. And he was only a 27.5-inch draw length. So overpowering the bow, too much weight, too long, it's just too hard for your body to consistently fire an arrow, which is what you've got to do. And when you look at the pros and you look at these archery competitions, they're trying to hit a spot that big at 40, 50 yards. And those are the ones that they hit to win.
Yeah, and they do it. Another important thing too is when you're buying arrows, make sure that you buy the arrows that are suited for the bow that you're shooting as well. Not only length, but weight of arrows. And I remember, years ago, and Jack, you'll remember this. I mean, we were shooting aluminum arrows, and I didn't have any money to buy aluminum arrows. So I was taking all my bent arrows and had an arrow straightener and was trying to bend them back, which you could never do. And then I was wondering why when I shot 50 yards, I'd hit 10 feet to the left, and then the next one to hit 10 feet to the right. So, make sure you get good arrows. And nowadays with the carbon arrows, and there's lots of great arrows, but your pro shop will lead you to the arrow that fits your bow as well.
Exactly. The material, once again, technology, aluminum. I used to go through a couple dozen aluminum arrows every year because I would ding them up because I was shooting so tight when I first started shooting competitively. So I went to carbon because they lasted longer. I didn't have to worry about a ding. Either the carbon arrow is broken or it's not. So, with what you're trying to do, trying to straighten it out, all you've really got are tomato stakes.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So let's talk a little bit about, so I know there's lots of kids out there, and we as hunters, my goal and your goal for years has been to get kids involved with not only hunting, but outdoor and things like that, anything in the outdoors, but hunting especially because it is kind of the average age of the hunter is going up, and we want it to come down. But there's a lot of people out there that maybe the kids want to hunt, but the parents really don't know anything about it. So is there a way that a parent could get a kid involved with shooting a bow without having to actually have any knowledge of doing it? I mean, what do you recommend? What do they do?
Well, once again, your best place to get that information is going to be from your local pro shop because they may know somebody. Like myself, I've taken lots of kids. I mean, my kids were growing up. I had kids when I was young, and my kids had grown up in between when I got really, really interested and real heavy into hunting. And then my grandkids just started hunting the last few years. But I've always taken kids out. Everybody knows, they spread the word around, so I'll get a phone call and say, hey, listen, I got this single mother with a 14-year-old boy who just came up to her and says, I want to learn how to hunt. I want to learn what it's all about. So can you help them out? So that's when I'll take them out. I'll talk to the kid, maybe get them up to a couple of the clubs I belong to. I'm a real archer, so I like to push them toward the archery because to me, there's nothing more rewarding. It's frustrating, it's patience, but there's nothing more rewarding than when you have that animal within your limited target zone and you release that arrow and you're successful. There's nothing like it. A gun, you can shoot them at 100 yards. You don't really get to study the animal in that. So that's why I mostly like the archery part. It just makes me enjoy the woods a little bit more. But with that also comes, going out into the woods. I try to get the kids excited. Like I just started getting into trapping a couple of years ago. And I took a couple of kids and dragged them with me out on the trapping line as we were learning from a master trapper on what to do and how to do it. And they had a blast. Now they want to get into trapping. And then last year kind of slowed everything down with the virus and the ability to offer classes to people who wanted to get trapping or archery and hunting, because in New York, it used to be you had to go to a personal class. Kind of tough when you can't get together in a group. So New York kind of stepped up. They started creating online classes, which you out in Iowa, you've had that luxury for a while to have online classes where you don't have to go to a person to actually attend a class for a weekend. But in New York, you're required to take a hunter safety class. If you want to bow hunt, you have to take a bow class. So you learn a little bit more about it and that. And then then the same thing with the other disciplines as it goes on. But getting the kids, getting their thumbs off of their machines and into the woods is one of the ways that I try to get people off and try to drag them out and introduce them to a lot of different things. Even if it's taking them for an ATV ride, getting them into the outdoors, something outside of their house. But that's what you got to do. Is it takes hunters like us. Like I know you do it, Rick. You take a lot of times. There's a lot of times you take kids out on Jake's days and that stuff. And that's what I do. It's that throughout the year I've had the opportunity to attend different clubs when they have events like that and become a mentor. And that's the best we can do is become a mentor. If you talk to your local game DNRs or your DECs and you let them know, hey, listen, I want to be a mentor. If you know of any kids or you know of anything like that or anybody, especially first timers, we want to take and bring them in. So that's what I kind of like to try to do is try to get to the beginners. Because if I can get them hooked, they're going to become hunters for years to come.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And the most important thing and I do seminars throughout the United States, and the most important thing that I talk about when it's related to any kind of hunting is safety. So those hunter safety courses that you're talking about are very important because, I didn't have to take one. I got my alarm going off. That's a reminder there. But I did not have to take a hunter safety course because I was born before a certain year, but I took it anyways. My dad said, you're going to take it because you're going to be a safe hunter when you're in the woods. So whether you're required to or not, you really must take some kind of course. And I believe every state pretty much forces you to take one nowadays.
Just
great experience.
Let me just follow up real quickly because I know we want to move on to your special cooking segment. But there's a reason why police officers go through a training at least twice a year, every year, and that's to remember what safety's all about.
That's right.
And you have it once when you're a little kid, and then you're 60 years old, and you're out there, and God forbid something happens, and You're wondering what happened.
That's right. That's great. All right. So, hey, I told you at the beginning of the show, we were going to share with you one of my favorite backstrap deer recipes. And Paul, the guy that's behind the show, putting everything together, you don't see him, but he's running all the stuff. I mean, Jack's in New York, and I'm in Iowa, and Paul's down in Arkansas, and he's doing all this. But he came up here a few weeks ago, and we did some cooking segments and some other things. And he's put together this great backstrap deer recipe, and he's going to play it now. So get your pen and paper ready and take notes. It's a great recipe.
I love to turkey hunt, but I love eating turkey even more. Hi, I'm Rick White, and today I want to share with you a simple, easy, and one of my favorite wild turkey recipes. Now, I've got a turkey breast here. We're going to go ahead and get it cut open, get it out, and basically I'm just going to, I cleaned it up when I froze it, but we're gonna get it cleaned up just a little bit, get any feathers and any kind of fat that you've got, just kind of trim it up a little bit, and any bruising, any bruised meat or possible shot, just go ahead and get it cut out. And we'll take the tenderloin out here. Now this tenderloin has got a tenet that runs right down through the middle, and I like to get it, just kind of find out where it's at here and trim it back just a little bit. I can get my hands on it a little easier. And sometimes I'll just take the knife and wrap it up in the knife here and basically just pull it right through the meat here. And that's pretty tough to eat there, so we'll set it off to the side, and we've got the tenderloin here, and like I said, we're just gonna get this cleaned up. Any of this excess skin off, a little bit of fat here. And I'm gonna go ahead and I like to cut my pieces anywhere between 1 inch to 2 inches, or you could even do it in strips if you wanted to. And I also like to cut against the grain when I'm cutting my pieces. Just go against the grain. That'll be a little more tender for you. And again, just try to get some of the skin off if there's a lot of skin on it. And here's a little trick for you. If you do this when your meat is just partly frozen, it's a little easier to cut up. It's a little easier to clean up as well. Just get any of those tendons out of there and any of that fat. All right, now once I've got that turkey breast all cut up, all I'm gonna do is add buttermilk. And I just put in enough to really just to cover it. Get it mixed up good so it's got buttermilk on everything, and buttermilk gives it an excellent flavor and actually naturally tenderizes. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put a lid on this, stick it in the refrigerator, at least overnight. If you wanted to leave it in for 24 hours, you certainly can. And by tomorrow, we'll be ready to go on to the next step. Well, here we are a day later. Now we've got our turkey breast that's actually marinated overnight. And all I'm gonna do is take the turkey breast, roll it into the flour, and then fry it in peanut oil. And then once it's done, I'm gonna bring it over here to this plate, and I'm gonna put one of my favorite spices, Cracker Boy spices, and I'm just gonna spice it after it comes out of the oil. Don't put it on before, because it'll actually fry right off the turkey. So anyway, let's get started. And one other thing, the flour that I use is self-rising flour, and it makes a big difference. So here we go, let's get started. Turkey into the flour. And just coat that turkey breast real good with flour. And then just pop her right in the grease. Oh yeah. You know your grease is good when it sizzles like that. That flour all the way around it. And you just really want to kind of watch it, depending on how hot your grease is. And I like a good hot grease. But you just want to cook it until it's golden brown on both sides. Wash my hands off here. It's going to cook fast too, because that grease is hot. In fact, it's almost done. And I usually like to turn it once. That's coming along really good right there. And I always put a paper towel down just to catch off any excess grease. Go ahead and these ones. The grease just a little bit hot on these first ones here, but it'll come out fine. And then, like I said, once you get them out, make sure you, whatever your favorite spices are, but if you're looking for something good, make sure you try out Cracker Boy. It's pretty good. All right, let's get some more in here. That's as good as it gets right there. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna finish cooking the rest of this, and we're all gonna sit down and have a pretty good feast. But if you're looking for a great wild turkey breast recipe, give this one a try. I bet you'll like it.
All right, everybody. Well, it looks like the guy behind the scenes likes my turkey recipe better than he liked my deer recipe. Now, slight mistake. I thought we were doing the deer recipe tonight, and it was the turkey recipe. So we'll do the deer next week. But Jack,
I really wanted Popeyes today, Rick. I really wanted Popeyes.
Oh, you want Popeyes? Okay. Hey, what are you hunting this fall, Jack?
Well, I'm getting ready now that the borders are open, is that in 3 weeks, my lovely wife and I are heading to South Africa for 2 weeks in the bush, and that's up in a little archery plains game hunt.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I wish you the best of luck. Hey, we got a special tonight. It's a great special, and it's the time of the year that you really need to be buying this special, okay? It's the Bresser Trail Cam. It's the model number GC-2MP-PN. Now, here's the deal. We're going to run a special of $40, okay? And that's a special by itself, but it's going to be also buy one, get one free, okay? So just go to BresserUSA.com or Alpen's website, and if you want to buy one, get one free, just put down 2 cameras when you order. Just order 2. One of them will be free. If you want to order 10, 5 of them will be free. So not only have we knocked the price down to $40, we're also giving you the buy one, get one free through Sunday at midnight. It's a great special. You know, we've got 2 different trail cams. This happens to be the Generation 1 that came out, and it's a great trail cam. You know, both trail cams are great, but we've got a special on this one. Again, model number GC-2MP-PM, or PN, I'm sorry. It's the Bresser Trail Cam, on sale for $40, and then we're going to buy one, get one free. That's a great deal, Jack, and this is the time of the year that you should be putting your cameras up.
It definitely is. Definitely, because, you know, I love our cameras because I can take, when I'm going to hit a new section, a new area, I put one of these babies out there and see what I get. And then I can bring in one that has the time date, the timestamp on there, and I can tell more closely as to when that deer is moving through and what time of the year it is.
Right. I mean, this is cheap enough that you can put multiple cameras on your place, and that helps me determine the deer movement. So anyways, Jack, we run out of time. It was a great show, and I appreciate you coming on. And next week, I have Joe Wayner from Kansas City, and he's a taxidermist, and we're going to talk a little bit about field care and what you need to do to prepare your animals and take care of them before you get them to the taxidermist. So a lot of neat information. Jack, thanks again. Appreciate you coming to the show. And folks, more importantly, we appreciate you coming along with us. We'll see you next week on the Hunt with Alpen Optics. Night, everyone.
Well, I'm out doing a little bit of late evening scouting, just looking for deer and waiting for them to come out into the field. But I've got a new pair of Alpen Teton binoculars. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, what binoculars are best in low light situations? Well, that's simple. The answer is the Alpen Teton binoculars. And the reason for that is they have the Abbey Koenig prism, which simply means it allows 94% of available light to get through these binoculars, making them an excellent pair of binoculars in low light. So if you're looking for a pair of binoculars that will see detail into a dark timber right now, this time of the evening, make sure you check out the Alpen Teton binoculars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, here's some deer coming out right now.